I don't think that the Trump administration has been nearly as effective as they could be.
I'd have to go on immigration with a B- or maybe a C.
A lot of people are going to be upset with that answer from both sides.
Oh my goodness!
Unfortunately, while Mason's freaking out, I'll just explain to you how a solo stove works.
Every week, we are in a new location.
But if the content sucks, it sucks anyway.
We're here. We're coming from a different angle today.
We are, because the snow is 2 feet deep.
2 feet of snow. We've got a fire going. This is a homey environment for episode 17
of Approach the Bench.
Welcome so much to this. If that is a phrase, welcome so much. Is that not? Okay, sorry. Welcome.
That's okay. Welcome so much.
Welcome so much to Approach the Bench.
Yeah, and welcome to Brighton, Massachusetts, this lovely neighborhood across the Charles from Cambridge. This is where I live. We are in my side yard right now with my solo stove fire going. Isn't this thing amazing? It uses dual combustion, so it gives off way less smoke than a normal fire pit. And it's great. It produces a lot of heat.
Totally does. It's a wonderful environment to shoot a podcast. If you are listening over audio right now, I just got to encourage you, pause, take a look at the video and see where we are so that you get a better sense of the kind of conversation that you're engaging in.
Totally. It's a homie, it's a fireside chat, to be honest with you. We are reacting a lot to feedback. And then we're going to cover the Trump administration year one in review.
Yep.
And then we might have time for an interlude, depending on how long those take. But really, it's a time to react to all the feedback we've gotten over the last 3 episodes, because all of those episodes have done really well.
We've had a lot of new listeners join in, especially the episode with Larissa. So if you're coming to us after that episode and you want to hear more about how we rate the Trump administration, you can always jump forward to that. But if you also want to hear how we interact with you, because a lot of you left comments or emailed us or messaged us over DMs and Instagram. And so we want to walk through some of that. We're not going to bore you too much, but some of these comments are crazy.
Yeah, they are.
But you'll notice that I'm exhausted, so I might be a little bit slower in my thinking, which is kind of probably a usual thing.
Yeah, we're both tired. I've been running totally wild this J term and winter break. We had Israel, then I went down to D.C., then I got back from D.C., then I went straight to Costa Rica, then I came back from Costa Rica and I went to go help my buddy campaign in Texas. Texas 35, vote for Josh Cortez.
There you go.
Yeah, we've been running wild, and so have you. You got some work and
I've been
stuff.
Working a ton. I've been working on a class. I've been working for an internship, bunch of other things going on at the same time. And then we just have this beautiful little environment. That's why we wanted to sit here and have a fireside chat with you, because frankly, we don't want to exert ourselves more than we have to.
Yeah, exert effort.
Already having to dig ourselves out of the snow is a lot.
If we had hot cocoa right now, that'd be better. Maybe we'll take a break and make hot cocoa.
At some point when we have wives, we can ask them to make us hot cocoa during the episodes.
That'd be beautiful.
And they can come out and bring those to us.
Yeah.
That'd be so
or
nice.
Or even girlfriends, they could help out with that.
That is true. Well, just keep that in mind for the audience. So I think we can honestly just jump into it, then we'll get into the Trump admin.
Yeah.
It's a simple episode. All right, so listen, we got a lot of feedback from the last few episodes, and we don't want to hold you guys up with listening to us talk too much. So if you want to skip through this, skip through it. There's a little chapter in the YouTube video, chapters in the Spotify, Apple podcast. But we're going to briefly talk about some Israel stuff.
If you do skip that, you'll be missing a beautiful moment of us interacting with you around a fire. And I mean, who wouldn't want that? Who doesn't want to sit around a fire with us?
Amen. Absolutely. It's so wonderful. And also, most of this is going to be the Larissa episode, which is fun to talk about. We're going to briefly touch on the Israel stuff that we went through. We got some feedback, obviously, because our views are controversial. If you want to hear our controversial views, you should go listen to the episodes.
Yeah, there's 3.
There's 3 episodes with different stuff on Israel.
Yep.
Honestly, a lot in Israel, some of them. But a lot of people weren't happy, said we were bought and paid for. We're not bought and paid for.
We wish we were bought and paid for, but we're not.
Otherwise, we have to shovel this whole place out ourselves and set this whole fire up.
And I have to pay for the wood.
It's such a pain in the butt. But a deeper thing than that, too, is that we're also open to other perspectives. We want to bring other people onto the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are exploring options to bring on Muslim guests and another Middle Eastern from Lebanon. So it would be great. We're going to try to bring on a different perspective and share that with you guys.
Yeah, and we always love to hear from you. If you have other perspectives that you want to send us or books that you think that we should read that would be interesting on this stuff, please do so. So that's kind of the breakdown here. The only comment I'll mention is that talk about bad choices in life. 1, going to Harvard. 2, supporting Israel.
Yeah. That was like the first comment on that, and I laughed at that.
Which is hilarious. I think some of those comments
I probably would have said that too a couple years ago.
Yes, it's very funny. Yeah. All right, you ready? Want to jump into the rest of the episodes?
Let's do it, yeah.
Okay.
Spicy
So
episode.
Larissa part 1, it's gotten a lot of views, lots of hours of watch time, and a bunch of responses.
Right.
I mean, there were several people who commented very kindly saying, thoroughly enjoyed this episode, eloquent, thoughtful discourse, saying, it's so good to actually have some sort of respectful discourse in this day and age, even when this person said some some of the things y'all said made my jaw drop, but it's wonderful to have this. Another person said, I'm a Cambridge history graduate student. This has been a great watch. Thank you.
Oh, great.
So there was a lot of really nice things that people said. There were also some not so nice things.
Sure, let's get into those. Those are better.
Yeah.
Those are better.
So one of the under comments that we got, I don't see a leftist in this video. Just 3 coastal elite liberals.
Which is very funny. I don't know. I mean, technically, yes, I am from the coast. I would not say I am elite.
I'm not from the coast. And
he's
also,
not from the coast either.
Brother,
Larissa's the only coastal elite
But
liberal.
it's true, though. I am starting to talk like that sometimes when we're talking about politics. That is the worst fate. That comment had 21 likes.
Oh, wow. 21. Jeez, our careers are over, bro.
I know. 21 people were out there and like, man, I'm going to go out of my way and press like on that comment.
Yeah.
So I really
it's
hope.
fair. I mean, I don't think any of us come from elite backgrounds, but we are now in that elite class of like liberal in the maybe small L sense.
Exactly. This is the problem. And they also added on, there was another comment that said, for Harvard folks, all 3 of these people sound super dumb, which just makes us sound even more like coastal elite liberals.
Mm-hmm. Did you think we sounded dumb?
No, I don't think we actually sounded
I thought
that dumb.
Larissa sounded pretty dumb. Just kidding, Larissa.
Actually, I got a lot of pushback from friends on the right who were like, why didn't you attack her on this and this thing and this thing?
Yeah.
And it's like, our goal was not to have somebody come on the podcast and just own them or debate one. We could have stuck on anything that she said, just like she could have stuck on anything we said and talked about it for like forever.
Yeah, but that wasn't the goal.
But that wasn't the goal, no.
Certainly, Larissa expressed her dislike about identity politics, and she probably was quite disappointed that they kind of maybe picked Kamala Harris because she was black and a woman. But I don't think Larissa would ever not vote for someone because they were black or a woman. She expressed more dislike with the establishment Democratic institutions.
Yeah.
She wants like a new way for the Democratic Party.
And I mean, crazy soccer freak threw this out actually. He said, this girl is close, but just needs to be hit by reality before she becomes a conservative. Which, I mean, this is what I'm saying by like, when you start to see that somebody doesn't subscribe to identity politics, it's like you actually are living in reality. Right, but that's also what scares me then, because then if you get elected and you still remain socialist, oh my gosh, those are the worst kinds of people to have to encounter.
Yeah.
They're scary.
Yeah.
Because they're going to effectuate their agenda sincerely.
Well, part of what I think we think, Mason, is that, you know, we're kind of excited, I would say, to see how the Zohar Mamdani agenda plays out, because we're thinking that it's not going to work.
Yes.
And if it doesn't work, then that would be the reality check that a lot of these Democratic socialists, I would hope, respond to.
Well, this is why it's interesting. We're talking about the Zoran agenda, and then later in this episode, we're going to talk about the Trump agenda and how effective it's been.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to kind of get into the meat of whether or not conservatives are actually able to sell themselves as effective, especially after a first year in governance as holding the presidency and all of Congress and the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But before we get more into that, I mean, there were also some other comments here about, Will, you were kind of paired with Larissa.
Oh, yeah, read the comment.
Larissa plus Will would be a cute couple, and she said she's Team Larissa.
Right.
So I'm just saying, like, I mean,
and
that
she also
was
said
thrown
she
out
was
there.
thrown off by my ring. My ring is not a wedding ring, though I will say sometimes I flip it to my ring finger if I think it's going to be helpful for the environment that I'm in. Like when I was at bingo night in rural Texas. No, it was more like I want to present myself as a professional conservative.
That's lying. Holy crap.
It's not lying. It's
yes, that is. You're trying to present yourself. If it's not to protect yourself from getting hit on, at least that's a reasonable reason. Bro, you cannot be putting that on, acting like you're married to try to act like you're something you're not.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's crazy.
I just did it one time. And then the ring was too loose on my ring finger, so I took it off. Put it back on
okay. I disagree with that, and I think people should give their opinions and condemn him in the comments.
But yeah, Larissa and me, I think that would never work. I think we're too different. At the very least, it would be an intense session of missionary dating in order to try to get that to work. And like, she's a lovely girl, but
we've talked about missionary dating in the past.
And I haven't been opposed to it. So.
Yeah, so you're more for it than I am, that's for sure.
Thank you for that comment, though. I bet Larissa would disagree.
Yeah, I mean, and Mike even made this point. He said, if the political split continues to deepen on gender lines, I think the bachelors are increasingly likely to remain that way, which is 100% true.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, it is difficult. It's difficult to cross those lines, and a lot of girls are more liberal. I was talking with one of my friends who's a European dude, and he's like, all the girls are very PC.
Yeah.
They're very career focused. It's very hard to be able to date them. Yeah. Like you say something that's a little off, they immediately cut you off.
No, I know. And I think if you just take like that Larissa and me hypo as an example, that'd be a very difficult situation to make work. Yeah. And if that's kind of the trend that guys are moving more to the right, girls are moving more to the left, I think that's just going to become more of an issue.
And there's at least one more thing I wanted to mention here, too, from these episodes. One person, Jessie, she clarified something that I'd said. I basically made a point about humans being evil. Okay, and every time I do this, there's always a Christian that comes into the comments. Mm-hmm. It corrects me. Because classical Christianity, it's true. We don't believe that human beings are inherently evil as a matter of like theology. Mm-hmm. And he's saying that like God creates things that are good metaphysically and logically. That's not what I was trying to say when I say that human beings are evil or bent towards evil. What I'm trying to say is a matter of emphasis.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
tired
I know,
from
you're
the
getting
soot.
so much soot in your face.
It's because the wood that we're burning is not like pure wood. It's all
not.
processed like trim pieces from the build that we just did.
Well,
But
it's good that we're
anyway.
sending into the atmosphere then.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think the reason why I say that is because my experience with people is that we're very broken. That's why I'm a conservative. Is that I understand that as a Christian, I have a view that people can choose good. They can choose God. But I think that they have a lot in them that doesn't want to choose God.
Yeah, I get the like metaphysical distinction and maybe the importance for like theology, but to say that humans are inherently evil from birth would be an accurate statement, would it not? I mean, we are corrupted by sin.
We have original
at birth.
sin. We are to blame for our sin.
Sure. So inherent maybe is the wrong
But
word.
that doesn't necessarily mean that we're like born as demons.
Right.
Right. There is something different about us. So we're falling short of the glory and grace of God. The glory of God, excuse me, but not the grace.
Yeah, we're corrupted by sin.
Yes, there's one other thing that we need to watch.
good
apparently,
design
and
corrupted
I would
by
be
sin.
interested to hear what the audience thinks of this. We were told that we were a bit too pretentious from one of the viewers. Definitely some can sense some pretension here, but you all go to Harvard. That's scary to me. I have a bad problem of being pretentious already, and I don't want to come off that way more. So if you guys could just like make some mean comments in the chat and keep hitting me down, I think that'd be nice.
Look, we have a fire going. We're in a home in the backyard of a house.
This is classic Americana.
This is working class America, baby. Just because I go to Harvard Law doesn't mean that inside of me. I was actually debating this with a friend the other day. She's like, no, you definitely are elite. You're not working class. You're not blue collar. I was like, yeah, but I don't think I'm elite either. You know, just because I worked my way to Harvard doesn't mean that I had it handed to me on a silver spoon.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean that the title itself makes you, I think, elite. Like
Sure.
if this is Cambodia, right, and the Khmer Rouge are coming through, they're gonna kill you, bro. So
Yeah,
like
we're all dead.
I'm just saying. I
We
think
might be dead
as a
under
matter of-
Zoran Mamdani's America.
You never know. That's what we're going to talk about later. But so there's also one other thing that we need to discuss from the last episodes, and that is our takes on Ozempic. We got an essay.
Yeah, I saw that.
We got an essay. Listen, whoever sent that, we love you. It was anonymously submitted. Thank you for taking the time to express your thoughts for the podcast.
Absolutely.
It is too much for me to read. But what I will say is
like 9.5.
we take your thoughts into consideration. She talked about how it was difficult to be able to convince your significant other to get on Ozempic, but probably there's a need for them to do it at some point. But also, like, maybe you need to change your priorities. And she said, I do agree with Will 100% in that couples should be each other's accountabilities for their health. But y'all skipped right to a man suggesting Ozempic instead of a habit, lifestyle modification, which is a
Right.
little irritating.
Totally. I mean, we did it to be a little irritating.
We were trying to
for
be
sure.
irritating. So like,
You should not. Ozempic should not be the first thing that you go to or that you suggest. to your
No, you
significant
shouldn't
other.
immediately jump to that with the wife.
Yeah.
We're just talking about it as like a possibility out there because it came up on our
Absolutely.
trip. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
And also we had another submission. I don't know if this woman's name is Tristan, but the email that we had,
This might be my Tristan from Boston College. It might be.
No, it was
Okay,
a
it's
woman.
not.
This is a woman who's
Yeah,
married.
that's a girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she is married.
Oh, okay. Then this is her.
Remember, she said like she left a really nice comment on like episode 1, like
that
hope you're
makes
doing
sense.
well,
That's
Will.
so sweet of her.
et cetera, yeah.
Well, she
Thanks,
gave a voice
Tristan.
memo, and she basically said that she completely understands filtering based upon athleticism. You should totally filter on athleticism for your husband. and
Actually,
then
I do
encourage him to
kind
say
of
that
remember
way.
that was her take back in Boston College too.
That's great.
So she's consistent.
And she did what she was saying she was going to do.
I know.
If you have any more thoughts or comments, you can always submit them either through, of course, YouTube or Instagram, but we also have a link in the bio where you can submit anonymously, or you can send a question to approachthebenchquestions@gmail.com. Other than that, we're going to jump into an appetizer, then let's talk Trump.
Amazing.
Right, so we are now moving into the appetizer question. As you can see, we're also putting more wood into the fire, and I'm going to take one of these sheets from our episode plan,
That is so cool. We should do that every
that
time.
bad boy in there, and burn it. We've gotten several questions over Instagram, largely because people come across our account and find out that we're Harvard Law Christian conservatives. And one, they're dumbfounded that we could be at Harvard and be Christian or conservative. And then two, they have several questions related to that. So the first thing kind of has to do, and we've talked a little bit about this on the Harvard episode, but we want to touch on it more directly because we really didn't get to this. Does it help or hurt to be a conservative applying to Harvard?
I really don't know. You'd have to ask admissions, I think. I'm sure that they have a quota.
It helps.
Okay.
It's
it
not a quota. I
Okay.
don't know if they would use that word for sure.
Right, totally.
From everything we've been told and from the trajectory over the past few years, it actually is helpful to be conservative in applying to Harvard Law School. Can I say that for Harvard College? Absolutely not. I don't know them. What I know for Harvard Law is that they actually want to have an environment where there's different viewpoints. That's the first thing. And second off, half of the judiciary right now is run by conservatives.
Yeah.
And there's not that many of us out there. So
Right.
if you want your law school to get a bunch of clerkships and get a bunch of judges and get a bunch of influential lawyers and still maintain its top tier presence, you
That's
want
interesting.
conservatives.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mason.
You
I've never
want
thought of that.
conservatives.
Yeah.
So actually, listen, my friends who are applying, I don't think you should be afraid to be honest about who you are. Don't be jingoistic about it, but also be like, listen.
Wait a second. I love jingoism.
What?
You should totally be jingoistic
You think you
about
should
it.
just walk in and be like, yeah, so there's only 2 genders. You shouldn't do that.
Oh, is that how you define
That's what I'm saying, jingoistic.
I
You
define
shouldn't- you shouldn't sit
jingoism
in
like
an
let's
episode-
take Greenland.
Yeah, no, see, okay, that's also like that. What I mean by jingoistic is like you're militaristic about your views.
Yeah.
You should just be honest with who you are, and
Yeah.
it's likely that you'll get in, or if you have the right grades, obviously. They still care about grades, all these other accolades, but they're not going to treat this as like something that's bad for you. It's not going to be a knock against you.
And if I remember, I mean, it's been like 5 years or 6 years since I wrote my essay, but I think I focused a lot on my faith in that. Kind of my faith throughout different periods of my life and how that drove me and like what I wanted my legal career to look like with my faith as its driving force. So I think you could definitely lean into your Christian side too. I don't think I leaned into the conservative very much, but they probably knew that I was based on like,
Absolutely.
oh, he's going to the military, he's a Christian guy, he's probably conservative.
And for me, I was told to literally tell them that I wanted to join the politically conservative, legally conservative club on campus in the interview, which is what I did.
Yeah.
And I was coming from a private Christian school, so I couldn't hide my faith or my values.
And I do remember though, and I don't know if I made the wrong call in doing this, but when I was doing a prep interview, I was serving as a JAG intern in Fort Bragg, and one of the JAGs actually had gone to Harvard Law, and so he offered to help me prep. And we did the interview, and I made a comment about how I'm excited to lead the guys into battle or something like that. And he's like, well, I don't think you should say guys, say like soldiers.
Yep.
And so I did that in the interview. I made sure to use like gender inclusive
that's actually
terms.
important to them.
So that's like,
That is.
yeah, probably.
I'm frustrated
be a
by that kind of
conservative,
stuff.
but
I got
be
a
somewhat PC.
Yeah, no, I got a comment about something similar when I was giving an opening in my trial advocacy class, which was very reasonable, and I'm happy to catch that because some jurors, they're going to be very upset about it. But also, as I'm speaking, I'm like, the people I'm talking about are mostly men anyway.
Yeah.
I'm using guys in the northeastern kind of guys way, right?
Yeah.
So
we're
it's sad.
northeastern liberal elites.
Yeah, because we're northeastern liberal elites,
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
But I think there's another question that was built into this from some other people who asked. It wasn't just whether or not it hurts you getting in. It's whether or not it hurts you at Harvard.
Okay.
Like, what's the community like for Christians, for conservatives, and is it really that good? Like, are we kind of seen as persona non grata on campus?
I mean, dude, I think so.
You think so?
Don't you think? Yeah.
After the feedback that Larissa got, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are. I mean, we have a strong conservative community that we've talked about a lot on this podcast called Federalist Society. But I definitely think, by the end of the semester, a couple of my classmates, including me, were somewhat a persona non grata in our section for the comments that we made, for standing up against abortion. And I mean, people don't like that. And when you're in the minority with those kind of views,
There's a lot of liberals at the school who, I mean, they take their values to heart. And their values say that the things that you just talked about with abortion and gay marriage and other stuff like this, that's a critical human right to them. And that would mean that our views are actually kind of trying to push society towards a world in which we're living more in a Christian style.
Right.
And
But
that's
for them,
not
it's
the
a
way
worse,
that that's a worse lifestyle. So they don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
For that, I understand the concern. I still think that their views are wrong. And I also think that there's a better way to go about espousing those views and approaching us. It makes me sad when Larissa faces so much pushback.
Yeah,
Just
she got
for
a lot of
being
hate
with us.
She got
and
a lot
for
of hate
defending
from her
us.
own people.
For defending the fact that she would look at us and say that we have a pretty good community. Doesn't mean that we have a perfect community. She disagrees with basically everything that we stand on.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, she can look at us and still say like, hey, maybe there's something to the people that they are.
Yeah. The big
She's
tent
willing to
that
sit
they
here in the
have.
middle and have a
Absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Larissa, for that. I mean, and also just to throw out there, like, obviously every liberal on campus does not hate conservatives or, look at them as someone that we shouldn't normalize. Like, I have a lot of liberal friends on campus, and overall, politics kind of turns into a bit of a joke, like, oh my gosh, don't you think this, don't you think that? And then, you just laugh and move on and keep drinking.
I was at a party recently.
Good job, Mason.
House party late at
Dude.
night. Everybody's drunk but Mason.
Oh, Mason. You're missing out on
And
something there.
I was at the party and I got swarmed by a lot of people asking me questions about my views on sexual morality and also on
Happens to me.
Christianity.
Yeah.
And it's because everybody else is there just like having fun, drinking all the way up the wazoo, and I'm standing in the corner in a suit and tie.
Oh, dear.
And I know, oh dear. And one of the guys comes in, he's like, "You're the bench guy, right?" And it was very nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so he's like, he said, like, I don't got a problem with that, man, which like kind of implies everybody else does. But it's like that's what we're known as on campus. We own our views, and people really don't agree with them naturally. I mean, people have very different views as being liberals.
At this point, do you think everyone on campus knows about the podcast?
I think a lot of people know, especially after the Larissa episode. Everybody's at least heard about it. I mean, when I talk with people, almost always they say, and any new person I meet at Harvard is like, "I've heard of this before. I've heard of you. I've seen a clip from you."
That's kind of cool.
So they know that we're
but
Christian
it's scary.
conservatives.
Yeah, I know.
So
Here we
that's
go.
part of the built-in. So what my response to this question is, listen, There's a great Christian community. There's a great conservative community. Does that mean that we're always treated the best? I mean, no, absolutely not. We're not a majority. We're not close to a majority. So therefore, it's going to be hard to be us sometimes. But in terms of what it could be, and what I've heard it being at other places where like you literally can't even, like at the college, where it's like, I don't tell anybody, or I keep it on the down low as best as I can.
Right.
It's not like that for us.
Yeah.
So now we're moving into the main section of the podcast. If you skipped here, welcome. We're now going to be doing a rating of the Trump administration's first year.
Yeah, welcome to year 1, baby. I saw a Google memory of when I was watching the inauguration. I had just come back from a camping trip in my car, in my truck in Maine.
Wow.
Did a whole loop through northern Maine. And I was in a parking lot of LL Bean, had just bought these boots, had it on my little Android screen in the car, you know?
And you could see
I
it.
was live
But it was all
streaming the
happening
inauguration.
inside the rotunda of the Capitol because they moved it inside. I was there in D.C., standing in front of the Capitol while that was happening.
Wow.
I was directly in front. They were saying it was too
You were
cold.
protesting, weren't you?
They were saying it was too cold. No,
You were
of course not.
protesting
I was protesting that they moved it inside.
Right.
I had tickets to be right near the basin.
That's crazy.
Like right nearby where he was going to be giving the speech. So I would have looked up and seen him right there, only a few feet away.
Yeah.
And instead, they moved it inside because it was too cold.
Overall, I thought the inauguration speech was great. I know we're not grading that, but I remember being very impressed with it.
I thought it was wonderful. The golden age of America.
Anytime Trump stays on teleprompter, I like it.
It's actually so true. Anytime he stays on teleprompter, it's really good. The golden age of America. So let's grade this golden age of America.
Let's do it.
Okay, we're going to break this down by 5 topics. 1, national security / foreign policy. That's going to be anything that deals with military / our outward focus towards the rest of the world. That's a lot, obviously. Immigration is the next topic. That's going to deal with anything that has to do with people coming in and out of the country and the people that we're deporting or not deporting. After that, we're going to talk about culture war. Okay, culture war is all the sorts of like social values, the big topic stuff that if you said out loud, you might get canceled for back in the day.
Yeah.
That stuff. Then we'll do, of course, this is necessary. I mean, as Bill Clinton says, it's the economy, stupid. We've got to have a section on the economy. But then we'll finish with
Girl problems.
We'll finish with girl problems. No, we'll finish with this 5th category, which I thought was very important to include.
Okay.
Moral and effective leadership.
Yeah, great.
What I mean is, how good are you at being president?
Mm-hmm. How are you
president.
respecting the office of the president?
And not just the office of the presidency, but doing the office of the presidency.
Totally.
So it's not just like, it's cumulative of like how effective are you actually at these things.
Right.
And each of these topics now, we're going to rate the Trump presidency from an F to an A+, okay? Then we're going to take the average of all of those grades from these 5 and give a final overall.
Okay, great. I got my calculator ready. Yep.
Let's jump in. What would you rate him on foreign policy?
I'll give him an A- to a B because I think this is one of the strongest areas of the Trump admin so far. But obviously he ran on a very certain promise to end the war in Ukraine, and that hasn't happened yet. And so that's why I would knock him down from like an A to a B or maybe an A-. But I'm really impressed with the Gaza situation. I'm really impressed with all the other conflicts he's solved, like Azerbaijan and Armenia. I'm quite happy with how our posturing has changed towards China.
So wonderful.
And the seriousness there. And obviously, you know, striking Iran and having no Chinese or Russian engagement is a huge plus in my mind. It shows a lot of strength and like fear from our biggest adversaries. And same situation in Venezuela, right? Like they were backed by all of our adversaries and they did absolutely nothing to stop us.
Yeah.
So I think that was good.
I mean, I think on this issue, we're probably going to align the most. Because I also think it's been an incredible turn, and I'm judging a lot of this based upon my understanding of the Biden administration. So keep that in mind, because my goodness, I really didn't like the Biden admin. On foreign policy, this is definitely an A-.
Okay.
Wow.
So
it's
we're
an A-.
much the
It's
same.
not an A. It's not an A+. Not an A. It's not an A+ because of 2 things. One, I agree with you on Ukraine. If you guys remember, the first few weeks of his presidency were all about the Ukraine negotiations, where he's bullying Zelensky back and forth, and then he focuses on Russia, and he's like, Russia won't budge, because he's trying all these new moves, right?
Yeah.
And then he realizes actually the situation is a little harder than he thought it was.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the actual response to the Russians, is just to fight them directly.
Yeah, I know. It's sort of like a catch-22 that we're in right now, because Trump, on one hand, kind of also said, like, we're going to pull back our support from Ukraine. Europe needs to pick up the load. But you almost wonder if the only way forward is to actually still continue to dump more and more into Ukraine.
I'm a strong believer that the Russians only understand one thing, it's force. And that doesn't mean that you like nuke them or that you enter the war yourself, but it does mean that you should do everything in your power to kind of do what we did to them in Afghanistan. When they invaded Afghanistan in the 80s, we just gave money to people. We gave money and we gave arms to people and made it hell.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I think so many other things so good. I think he handled Venezuela well. I'm happy that he actually had a very forward approach with that. I'm looking to see what will happen in the future, and maybe this grade will go down if it doesn't actually pan out. I'm happy that he's enforcing the sanctions against Venezuela like much more forcefully by actually having us like take oil tankers and stop Russia and China from abusing the system. They shouldn't be in our hemisphere.
Yeah.
I also like that he hit Iran actually and showed them that we can do that stuff. Another reason why he's not an A plus or an A is because I think that there should have been more done during the Iranian protests.
So
I think
that's what I was just going to say too.
Yeah, him promising action on the Iranian protests looks really bad when he doesn't actually deliver it, and then tens of thousands of Iranians get murdered in the streets.
Now, are you sure? I would say that if he actually does act, then my score would kind of go up a little bit.
Absolutely.
I don't think that we're beyond the realm of him actually doing something. I mean, we've deployed ships to the region.
This is why I'm saying it's still possible that there could be action in the future, but until that happens, my grade is still a little bit lower.
Okay.
I think that the Israel-Gaza stuff was beautifully handled. I think he gave a lot more legroom to Israel, but not more than would be necessary to actually uphold our interests. I think it's kind of funny that he comes in and starts being like, you know what, we're going to invest in Gazan infrastructure and rebuild Gaza. Absolutely. And all these people are like losing their minds. They're like, it's so horrible, it's so horrible. I was like, there is nothing better at this point. There's no like better alternative. You have nothing else you can do that would actually work. This is something that'll work. Let's do it. It'll be better for the Gazan people. It'll be better for the Israelis. Let's do something like that. My goodness. Now, everybody's got different opinions on that stuff, but I think that that's a good way of handling that issue of just saying, let's stop the war and then let's try to just build some sort of tenuous peace at a minimum. I like that focus on peace. I largely like his approach to China, but I think his approach to China is a little bit softer than I'd like it to be. The tariffs are good. I want more pressure on them. I think the DOD doesn't put nearly as much strategic emphasis on China as it should.
Okay.
I think there needs to be more strategic emphasis from at least the people I've talked to who are within the administration. But I don't think that the strong arm strategy is necessarily the smartest with Europe, because Europe, as we've seen, is willing to go without AC to prove a point on climate change and literally die of heat exhaustion. Like, they're crazy. They will elect the worst far-left party in Canada, not because they care about the economy or they care about their infrastructure, but because they just want to score points against Trump. Like, literally, that's the number one issue of boomers in Canada. So when I'm working with those people, I think you actually have to kind of coastal elite them. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you're such a good person.
Be a little more like Obama.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be a little more like that, but also then have good goals, unlike Obama, who had bad goals.
Sure.
Whereas that's a lengthy explanation. That's why I give him an A.
We'll probably come back to Europe either in the later part of this episode if we have time, or in another episode. But that I don't really factor that in right now for foreign policy.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, small point too, he also cut down the State Department massively, 1,300 employees, which I'm generally in favor of because I think that most of these institutions are bloated.
Totally. Yeah, certainly. I mean, we both talked about this with Larissa, but we think Marco Rubio has done a great job.
Yes.
In his
this
role
is
right now.
The main reason why he gets an A-.
Yeah,
and we pulled out of WHO, the World Health Organization. We've been strong-arming the UN. We've been strong-arming NATO. I think that's the right way to approach most of those institutions.
Yeah. A+ if he pulls out of the UN at the end of his term, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What do you mean?
Really?
No,
do you really?
I totally disagree with that. I don't think we should pull out of these institutions. I think that the WHO, that's a different question maybe. It kind of makes sense. The reason why I'm more pro staying in the UN and staying in NATO is because I'm
not grouping NATO and the UN
We're
together.
just not using our power in those institutions to the extent that we could. We fund most of those two things. 90% of NATO, like 25 or 30% of the UN or something. We literally house the UN headquarters in New York City.
I know. I think we should take that land back through
my point is
eminent domain and turn it into another Trump Tower.
No, we should lay down the law. Why get rid of the institution when it actually does have some authority if we use it rightly? We should lay down the law with these countries. And if it's not going to end up being that case, if we can't, after we've tried, then we pull out. I agree with that, if we really can't.
I don't know that UN really has any authority, even if we give our all to it.
Yeah, that's actually a reasonable point in terms of what we could be doing. What I just mean is that we should actually strong on countries through the UN, and I don't want people walking around being like, the United States isn't even the UN, and the UN issues this injunction that says this. And the Soviet Union, this is what I'm thinking about in the 50s, they did the same kind of thing where they just kind of stepped back and they didn't really get that involved with it. Mm-hmm. And then UN forces get deployed to fight them in Korea and all stuff. So there are actual byproducts to stepping away from it if China takes control of the UN or something.
I suppose so.
That's what I'm worried about.
But if we're anyway, we could
go much further and further. Next topic. Okay. Immigration. What would you score him on? Because this is a big one. This is the big one.
I'd have to go on immigration with a B- or maybe a C.
A lot of people are going to be upset with that answer from both sides. Because
some want me to go
they
lower,
want to go really higher or lower. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm taking the middle of the road approach, so I don't offend anybody too much.
What's your vibe here?
So, obviously, we have shut the southern border, and this is great. And I think that part of that is the kind of way that ICE is operating, right? Like, you want to intimidate people from coming here. They don't want to put up with ICE. If they come here illegally, they know what they know what's going to face them. And I think that is a big part of the reason that ICE is the way that it is. But I think I'll give them a B- or a C, probably because of some of the due process concerns that I have with what's going on, and maybe just the overall long-term effectiveness of how the way that ICE is operating is going to continue to erode trust in law enforcement. And obviously the Trump administration isn't to blame for that fully, right? There's other sides that are reacting against this, and that's eroding the trust too. But I just think that, like, in the long term, I'm wary that the Trump administration is stubbornly sticking to a goal, like in Minneapolis, for example, when maybe they need to adapt their strategy a little bit and take a beat.
And so by due process concerns, are you talking about like the shooting in Minneapolis? Are you talking about the fact that we've snagged a lot of people off the street who may end up being citizens?
That one.
That's the word?
That's what I'm talking about, yeah. Now, I mean, the southern border is shut.
That's great. That's a huge deal.
That's great. So that takes me, I mean, maybe B- is too harsh, but I think that I'm going to stick with that.
The number of border crossings we're seeing now is so negligible
like
compared to what we saw under the Biden administration.
Yeah.
That is something that's worthy of praise. Now, listen, I hear what you're saying. Is it all right if I give my rating here now? Are you good?
Yes.
Okay. On immigration, I give him a B. And now this is a hard
Shocker! Oh no!
Listen.
Mason's
I'm the one who was defending.
I
was the one who was defending mass deportation in our episode on immigration. And listen, I strongly support deportation of those who are here illegally.
Let's say it a little louder so the whole neighborhood can hear.
I strongly support deportation of those who are here illegally, who have entered and committed crimes, specifically those who have committed violent crimes.
Because they all have committed crimes
prioritized above the others.
Yeah.
But here's the problem with the way that the Trump administration is going about it. And every single time that you say this stuff, people on the chuds are like, the way. Wow, what a weak guy. And it's like, oh, that's so funny, huh? But it's almost like if we do it in a certain way, the American people will never let us do this ever again. We are spending all of our capital right now on an operation that's like a battle of the Somme in Minnesota, where we're going around trying to pick off one or two people.
Capital in the fiscal
By
sense.
capital, I mean our ability, like public opinion, to be able to navigate this stuff, to be able to actually effectuate the kind of agenda that we're trying to effectuate, which is if the Democrats are going to violate the law in the way that they have and let so many people in, that we actually have to stand up for something and say, hey, there's going to be a consequence. Is it going to be nice? No, it's not going to be nice. But we're going to demonstrate that when we deport a lot of people, the crime rates are going to go down massively, which is what has happened, and that life can get better for a lot of people, and that also these people can still enter the country through legal means, that there are other alternatives. But the problem is the chuds don't want that. The chuds don't even care about the number of people that we've deported. What they want is they want the Minnesota conflict. They want to make you squirm. And the problem I have with that is I'm like, are you kidding me, man? Like we're barely raising the deportation numbers on the back of this stuff. We're committing thousands of agents to a place where we're not able to get nearly as much juice for our squeeze. And so my thing is like, if we're going to actually try to carry out a mass deportation operation, it should actually mass deport rather than increasing our numbers by what is right now only 200,000, which I know is a lot. 200, 300,000 is a lot. But like that's not anywhere near the millions that I was promised.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. Okay, that all sounds brutal. There are people on the other side of this. I want to acknowledge that. I'm not coming out saying like, I want the 5-year-old kid who got detained to be detained or something like that in the way that he was. I don't even know the details on it. Yeah. My thing is that like as a general strategic matter, think that the administration is not following through on the strategy that I was bought into.
Really hard though when people resist so strongly. You know, I think you almost need to like pick your battles a little bit and say like, all right, we might not win the battle in Minnesota, but we can't let us lose the war because of this lost battle. Like there are 49 other states where we could be focusing our efforts right now. If Minnesota wants to go into the grave, into the gutter, which I think, Minnesota's basically a failed state, let them.
Well, but the problem is like how you do this stuff actually matters. And the chuds don't want to hear that. All they want to hear this, I'm talking about like the Stephen Millers, the Matt Walshes of the world. They want to like just say, hey, you know what, doesn't matter what you do, we're just going to do it. The reason why you care about how you do things is because there's sometimes much more effective ways of doing them.
Yeah, that's why I was saying take a beat.
That's what's pissing me off is that I'm like, when you're engaged in a battle, right? We're in World War I right now. We got into this because of a bunch of incompetent garbage, a bunch of bad decisions from the leadership. And now we're here and we have to decide where to engage. If I'm going to decide where to engage, I don't want to do it at the Somme like the Brits ended up doing it, because you're going to end up on the first day having 40,000 British soldiers killed. What do you do after that? Do you back away? No, you're bogged down. You've committed your soldiers. That's what we did in Minnesota. And the problem isn't that I don't blame the protesters. I blame the protesters to the extent that I think that they're all standing up and going out day after day in this freezing cold, wasting away their time to try to defend something that I think is not defendable. Like a violent criminal should be deported. I'm sorry. I think that's what should happen. Yeah. And I think they're protesting stuff that's largely not happening in terms of a lot of the other things with deportation. Sure. So I blame most of that stuff on them. Okay. But my point is we know strategically they're going to do that. Yeah. So if we're going to commit resources somewhere, we should do it somewhere where we're going to get the most juice for our squeeze. Yeah. And if we're going to go to a place like a blue state where we're going to end up getting bogged down, because as soon as we face that resistance, we have no choice but to send more officers, because we have to prove the fact that we're going to stand by what is federal law.
Yeah.
And so in order to avert that, my thought process is there's like 1 million illegal immigrants in Florida. There's like a million in there's millions in all of the red states. There are ways that you can go and actually find people and say, listen, you're committing violent crimes. You're not here in the legal way you're supposed to, and actually facilitate a process that law enforcement will help.
And I mean, in that sense, right, like you would boost your numbers, and you would truly have a case study to like look at and hopefully, you know, the next election would take this into account, right? Like where we conducted successful ICE operations in, let's say, Texas or Florida or Arizona, you know, here's the results that we can point to. And like Minnesota, who resisted us so strongly, we let them have their way.
Exactly.
We pulled out, we lost that battle, but we're going to win the war. I mean, we're going to win the war.
Yeah, I'm saying you can't pull out now, though. You just can't strategically.
No, I think you kind of need to.
I don't think as a strategic matter, I don't think that the feds can bend the knee. The problem is their response to the shooting that just happened in Minneapolis was terrible.
Terrible.
Like Trump didn't buy into it. Like Trump's statement was literally just about like Medicare and fraud and all stuff. But all of his like these henchmen, like Stephen Miller, comes out and starts being like, he's there to cause a mass casualty event. He's an assassin. He's a gun with 2 magazines on him. And I'm like, bro. I'm sorry, you're talking to a bunch of conservatives. Like, we carry guns with each other. We know what guns. We show up with guns at protests all the time. Is it a good idea to be doing that with federal law enforcement enforcing immigration law? Abso-freaking-lutely not. But does that mean that you're subject to immediate death, or at the same time that you're there to cause a mass casualty event? No. That's crazy.
No.
I hate that stuff from the government.
Do you ever think,
I will
Mason,
criticize
on
it fully.
Like, we're kind of getting off the rating of the Trump administration a little bit, but
sorry.
Do you ever think that what's going to happen is like the inevitable outcome is like eventually, right? The states kind of enforce their own immigration laws. And like Minneapolis can have all the illegal immigrants it wants, but North Dakota and Wisconsin and, you know, other border states, like they have to basically deploy National Guards to the highways that come in and out.
And this is what we're trying to prevent.
Checking passports.
Like, this is what we're trying to prevent, because immigration is one of the things that I believe the federal government is actually tasked with enforcing.
Yeah.
And that means that they have the right to come in and enforce in Minnesota. They have every right to do that.
Yeah.
And, like, does that mean that the Minnesota law enforcement has to help? Actually, they don't.
No.
That's part of our Constitution. They can say that they're not going to help you. They don't have to get involved.
No.
And that goes back to slave holding back in the day.
However, I would say that Tim Walz and Fry, the mayor,
should they get involved? Absolutely.
They should get involved to protect their own people, at least. This is allowing Walz and Fry to dodge bigger issues that are going on in their state, right? Like what was in the news for about a week? Fraud. And that's a big issue. And I wish that like the Trump administration, even if they just pull out just to have the conversation refocus on that for PR sake, that'd be a win.
Welfare fraud is huge, and
that'd
it
be
should
a win,
be focused
dude.
on more. I know, I agree.
So that's a way to win the battle and still
happens.
kind of cede some of this ground that you're concerned about.
This is the difficulty.
For the chums.
Don't get me wrong. I know DHS, it's a really difficult job, and there are people there who I think are really great, and they're working really hard. I'm only criticizing it to the extent that I'm frustrated because I'm worried that this is going to screw us if we don't do this right.
Yeah, it's an important issue, and I don't think that like, you know, us believing that immigration is like out of control and we need to deport a lot of people and uphold our laws is incompatible with the belief that like there are ways that we can do that better, and that Minnesota right now is probably not how we can best do that. Like pick your fronts. There's also nothing wrong with having a sympathetic tone, right? Like, I don't think there's anything incompatible. This came up in a conversation with my Uber driver who was from the Dominican Republic, and she was a huge Trump supporter. And I was kind of trying to press her a little bit on, like, are you sure you're okay with immigration the way it's being done? Like, do you have nothing to say poor about it? And she was like, look, I do have sympathy for the people. Like, I'm in these communities. Like, I know people who are here illegally and, like, are scared and don't want to go back to their countries. And, like, that sucks. But at the end of the day, like, you have to be accountable to the law. And, yeah, you broke it. And, like, we can have sympathy for the individual plight and the people who are here illegally, like, who are seeking a better life. And that's, again, why in our immigration debate initially, I focused on, like, first target the criminals. That's an easy win. But it's a very difficult win, and it's a very costly win. And so I just think that, like, the Trump administration even could be taking a more, like, sympathetic tone. Like, look, we know this sucks, but there are real consequences to breaking our laws, and our society will only survive if we enforce our laws. And I don't know that we would have ever gotten favorable media coverage.
That's not the point. The point isn't about getting good media coverage. The point is about affecting good results. Because my thought process is the American people will feel the results of the actions, okay? But they're always going to see the media, and the media is always going to lie. So who cares what the media is going to say? Who cares what the left's going to do in many ways? But what we have to think about in terms of what the left's going to do is whether or not they're going to actually impede our ability to affect the end that will allow us to make the argument we need to make.
Right.
And if we're not even able to get to many people in Minnesota for the amount of cost that we're seeing, where Trump has single-handedly moved our people in the polls from being minus 50 on abolishing ICE, minus 50 to plus 6. Plus 6. That is a 50-point swing on abolishing ICE.
56.
My gosh, what are we doing here? That means that, like, one, the media is obviously doing what the media does best.
Yeah.
But two, it also means that people aren't feeling the tangible effects of the deportations in the way that we'd want them to. I will say this. I actually think that as I'm reflecting more, I might change my immigration score and up it to like an A- to give credit to the fact that I think it's a lot harder to enforce immigration policy than I'm letting on. And I don't want to be kind of like dogging on these guys who are already trying really hard to enforce the law in the face of a media and a whole organized network of protesters. I mean, they're organized like an anarchist communist network, essentially.
Yeah.
Some of these protest groups to undermine their efforts. So I don't want to like underplay how important it is that they're doing the work that they are and that they're trying as hard as they can. It's more that I just think that there's a better grand strategy out there, and that is getting to me. That's why I'm lowering them on the numbers.
Yeah. I'm not going to change mine at all.
Okay.
I think I stand by it.
Okay, now let's move to culture war. Basically, this is everything that you could imagine that's like super controversial social-wise. So this is trans stuff. This is DEI race agenda. This is going to be all the things that have to do with abortion. It's going to be gay marriage and LGBTQ stuff. So the big question for me to you, William, is how would you rate the Trump administration on the culture war?
I'd probably give him an A+, you know? Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just surprised. A+. That's really good.
I'll give him an A+. I mean, I think that the whole PC culture and woke culture has lost momentum completely. And I think that, as we talked about last episode, Gavin Newsom's kind of trying to moderate himself a little bit because he realizes that this is a dying issue for voters, right? Like Trump's election kind of proves that. The only thing that I would kind of question is, like, abortion has not become less of a...
That's the thing.
Maybe so an A then. Abortion hasn't become less normalized, right? Like people are still getting abortions in massive rates, which is heartbreaking. And I think that the public still sees that as like a good or a genuine right, even like the broad culture, right? And like this wasn't really an issue that Trump ran on.
Yes.
And so that one still is kind of looming large, I think, and like a problem that conservatives need to address. But certainly, I think if you just look at like the amount of like PC culture in the world right now, it's dead.
That's very true that it's changed. I mean, even Larissa, the way she's talking about identity politics and the fact that we're able to be more open with who we are, things have changed. And so I think for that reason, I would give the Trump administration an A- on the culture war. Okay, and now you've got to understand something here. I think on almost everything, they're perfect. Like, I'm like close to perfect in terms of the best that you can do, I think, from the federal government is just change messaging. Trump has completely broken the culture, changed it, redefined it, I think, in many wonderful ways that have made it much more livable for me as a Christian conservative at Harvard Law School. And I've seen that. I'm happy that they're actually like using the DOJ to help enforce DEI policies in the ways that I think they should, other things like that, right? I think the trans stuff is crazy, and it's good that the federal government actually understands two sexes, and the EEOC is being used rightly.
Yeah. What's the EEOC?
That's the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. But at the same time, there's one thing that sticks out to me. And I was asked by one of my friends very recently if there were 3 actions in government that you could take, and one of them had to be unilateral from the executive, what would they be? And then my unilateral from the executive response is this: enforce the Comstock Act. That's what it is. The Comstock Act basically just allows the federal government to actually regulate mifepristone, which is a horrible abortion drug that is being shipped across state lines and inducing far more abortions, essentially, than have happened in a long time. Now we're up to 73 million kids who've been killed in America from abortion since when it really became more in vogue after Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And as I'm looking at that number, and as I'm looking at the fact that I have a conservative, quote-unquote, president and a conservative, quote-unquote, House and Senate, I want more response on abortion. Is it a popular issue? Absolutely not. That's the reason why I don't grade them too far down. I understand this is really hard politically. I think they'd lose on it. Yeah. I think it's a horrible thing for the American people. They're going to hate it. But I think it's absolutely life-saving for so many people out there. I think there'll be more children born who will get to live their lives in this country, and I think those lives are valuable.
Yeah. I mean,
so only A- for me.
okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that like the abortion issue, I think conservatives kind of took a breath after Roe v. Wade was overturned. But the fight's not over, clearly.
It's not.
It's not over.
We've got to keep pushing, so we'll get more into
We need to
abortion
do
stuff
more.
in the future.
Yeah.
All right.
And if you want to hear more about our abortion topic, we covered it at length with our friend Lindsay.
With Lindsay.
I don't remember what episode it was.
Episode 7.
Something like that, yeah.
I think it's episode 7. So now we're going to talk about the economy. What would you rate Donald J. Trump's first year in office on the economy?
I'll give him a B. I'll give him a B on economy. I think that the numbers in terms of inflation are actually really low, like 2%, something like that. And under Biden, it was 6%. And I saw a funny headline from CNN that says, like, you know, Trump's inflation is still hovering at 2.6%, which underscores the cost of living crisis that Americans are facing. And then, like 2 years earlier, they were like, inflation is down from 6.7 to 6.4%. Like, what a great move for the Biden administration. It's like, thanks, CNN.
Yep.
We know you're biased. You don't have to show us that much. You know, so overall the economy is good, and I think that the biggest question mark for me is like how much of the economy is just riding on AI right now rather than like sustainable long-term solutions. And then also, like, I don't think Americans are feeling that the economy is doing better. And so I think the Trump administration heading into the midterms and into 2028 needs to do a better job of just emphasizing that, hey, we've done actually a really good job with the economy. I think part of that Trump needs to message just a move away from like always defaulting to tariffs as kind of his like trump card, so to speak, because that introduces uncertainty into the economy. And every time that like tariffs are thrown out there, right, like stocks kind of react poorly to that, and that is troubling for the American people long term. So
yeah, I think that
just messaging. That's why I give it.
The issue here is that the numbers are good.
This is so hot.
I know, it's
legs are
actually getting
burning.
really hot. This fire right now.
But good for us.
The issue right now is that the numbers are good. Okay, the numbers are good for the Trump
Numbers are good.
administration.
Numbers don't
And
lie.
why I
Check
call
the
that an issue is
scoreboard.
because I think it's hard when you have like 4+% GDP growth per quarter.
Oh,
you're
and
getting-
job growth that is solely private.
Yes,
Not public
it's
job
not
growth
just
like
public
Joe
job
Biden.
growth. Yes,
Yeah.
you're actually starting to see private sector job growth.
Yeah.
And like, wage growth is pretty good, but the problem is there's still like a bit of a higher youth unemployment rate. There's a sense of like aimlessness among the youth. As much as they're well off, I think that one of the main reasons why we don't really seem to feel it as much is because it doesn't really feel like the opportunities pay out what they used to, right? And maybe just because there's more that we ask for in life, right? We want our gaming PC, we want our Netflix subscription, we want a bunch of other stuff. And maybe that's difficult to maintain and when you're working at like a fast food restaurant or something like that. But the reality is like the American promise is that you can work your way up. And I think that's the biggest thing that they're still struggling with. And I think the Trump administration is trying to target stuff like that. That's why they're introducing like the housing bill and all this other stuff where they're trying to say like big
credit card
companies can't
stuff,
come
too.
after it and credit cards. At least they're trying to prioritize it. Even if some of that stuff may not end up being
Yeah,
too
not
good.
so free market though.
But they're not very free market. I mean, in terms of like the tariff stuff and then invading into the economy and like buying portions of Intel and like and the fact that Trump kind of runs the system like a crony capitalist system in some ways where it's like come to me and I can negotiate out with your individual company whether or not you'll get out of the tariffs, which is an old style of American governance that I kind of wish we abandoned and never went back to.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, I'm going to give it an A- again. Here, this is another A- to me where I'm like, I am largely happy with them. I think that they need to do more with the Chicago School of Economics in terms of how they approach trade and other things. But they're doing a fantastic job with like deregulation. There's a regulation right now that they've got to cut 10 regulations for every new one that they introduce. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That is my jam, baby. I will happily eat that up any day. But here's the actual main reason that they're low on the A-. The one big beautiful bill. It maintained our deficit of $2 trillion every year. And to me, that is the biggest threat to the economy. And if you don't do anything about that, you're always going to get A- max. Sorry.
A- is pretty generous, I think.
It is generous because I think most of the other stuff is actually pretty good. Even the tariff stuff pissed me off, but it pissed me off to the extent that it was like there for a little bit, but now it's not causing as much of a disturbance as originally was concerned about, and also they took away a lot of the effective tariffs.
Right.
So
I mean, the deficit is something that we're going to need to address very soon, but nobody's going to
do it, which is why we have to rely on AI to have a generational run of GDP growth, or else we're going to be doing a very different episode in the future where
we're going to be cooking soup over this fire.
We're cooking soup here and
out of a job.
Yes.
I'm happy. You know, I don't need to be a lawyer. I'd happily go live in the woods and
Same,
just
brother.
live off the land. Yeah, right. You die in the first week. Can you
That's
even
probably
start a
true.
fire?
I could start a fire. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? You're underestimating how much of a life I've lived before you, William. I just play the role
Should
of
we
not
throw
being
some
good
of
at
this
stuff.
paper in there?
Yeah, I'm about to throw this little piece of paper in
Amazing.
there.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Everyone turn the video on. Ooh.
Burn.
Goodbye, Trump year 1.
Okay. Now for the last category, moral and effective leadership.
Mm-hmm.
This is a controversial one.
Mm-hmm.
What would you give him on moral and effective leadership? This is to do with being presidential. This has to do with being a good president, being good at the job, understanding the job, getting things done.
Okay. As an executive, as someone who gets stuff done, I would give him an A.
Okay.
What brings my score down? My final score is, I'm just taking B's on everything, which is kind of a cop-out. I'll drop this down to B minus. Okay. Because, like I said, Trump gets stuff done, and I do believe, as much as the libs are going to hate this, Trump is respected on the world stage, especially if you compare him to Biden. People hate him, but he's feared and respected. Okay. And I don't really care if he is as nice as Obama or as sleepy as Joe Biden. I want him to be effective, and I want the country that we live in to be feared. A healthy dose of fear is good. The reason I'm knocking him down, I think, and Mason will probably agree with this and say something similar, is questionable, like, crony capitalist stuff that Mason already addressed, and also just kind of like doing people political favors and kind of going back to like a spoil system of the economy or of the government. And yeah, some of that stuff with like just how Trump is benefiting financially from things that he's doing. That knocks it down. So I'll go B to B minus on the moral and effective leadership prong.
This is a very hard question for me. I'm just going to say this outright because I think there are some things that are really good in here, and there are some things that are really bad.
Right.
Okay? And the problem is, compared against Democrats, I'm like, okay, this is not even comparable. But basically, just to give you an idea how I'm rating this, I'd probably give Democrats Fs on basically every single one of these things. So that's really not saying much for them. But for Trump on this specific measure, I'm sorry. I think I have to give him a C.
Wow, that's very low.
I know. This is a very low rating. And the reason why I'm going to do this is a controversial one. And my friends on the right, you can get pissed at me for this and all this other stuff, but I'm a strong believer in holding people to high standards, even our own. And the reality is that I don't think that the Trump administration has been nearly as effective as they could be. I know from inside stories the level of just kind of mismanagement starting off in terms of like getting people their badges, getting people laptops, getting people set up, getting them into office, things run through. This is not all Trump. This is like just the people who are running the administration.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that there aren't really competent people in the administration who are trying their best within a broken system, right? And these are the big pluses I would give. Like, we've seen mass resignations from whole sections of the administration, which a lot of people would be like, that's terrible. I'm like, that's amazing. That's great. A lot of these people needed to leave because they're not aligned with the administration's agenda.
Yeah.
And the fact that the administration immediately started to enforce the hiring freeze, put down the, like laid down the law. I loved that. I thought it was wonderful. That was A+ material right there, all that stuff. The problem for me is that you got to fill those positions back up. You got to have people running the government in a way that's going to be effective at taking back from it. And I think we appointed a lot of people, just being honest, at least at the head, at the very top. I don't know if it's like all the way true all the way down because I don't know all the individuals who are working within the administration individually, obviously.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people who are in charge, they're not really the most competent individuals who understand even the agencies or the departments that they're taking over. There are a few exceptions to this for sure, but like, that's frustrating to me to see. And then on top of that too, so that you have that kind of limited effectiveness, you're kind of like hamstringing yourself almost. You have the moral aspect of governance, and I think it is a terrible precedent to set. And it already is a precedent the Democrats have set in many ways of like using the DOJ to like go after political enemies in some way. I'm not saying that Trump is fully doing this, but I'm saying that it's not good when you have a president who says, hey, we should be going after this person, and then the next day there's a subpoena issued for that individual.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good.
Like
It doesn't
Fed.
look good. It doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel like the America I know and love. Even if that person sometimes deserves it, it doesn't feel like the kind of thing that I want the president to be tweeting about. And then all of a sudden have that happen. On top of that too, as a deeper point, the fact that you have pardons of people who I think do not deserve pardons at all, but are just wealthy
Yeah.
or friends And the way that you use tariffs in that way to basically just like secure favors.
Right.
I understand that's how our politics works, man. But like,
Yeah,
my
you're not
gosh.
saying that Trump invented these.
No,
things,
he hasn't
right?
done this at all. My
Biden
point is to
invented
say
these
that like
things,
one of
yeah.
my biggest things I want to change about the Republican Party is this. So I can't give him a good grade because it's the thing that I think is the worst aspect of Trump.
Right.
Everything else I think is fantastic. I think that my immigration one I should have put it higher, honestly. Everything else in the administration I have loved so much. I wish for the love of goodness that we could return to an era where the president was presidential. And I understand, it doesn't mean that Trump doesn't have presidential moments. When he sticks to teleprompter, when he makes jokes and acts like a smile and, does those things, he's so wonderful. But then when some Hollywood director he doesn't like dies in a murder, he suddenly tweets out like, oh, it's so good. He always made fun of me and all stuff. That is just absolutely unbecoming of a presidential office. And it's unbecoming to pardon your political friends. It's unbecoming to use tariffs to support your own business interest. That is unbecoming. And you can't say this stuff on the right because there's a wokish culture on the right of like loyalty bootlickerism where you're like, oh, I have to, because they're on my team, I can't criticize them. Yeah. Screw that. That's bad politics. It's also, it's unprincipled and it's unchristian. I think as a Christian, I'm called to call out what needs to be called out. That needs to be called out. I stand by that. Everything else I love about the Trump administration. This I don't like.
Great.
All right, so overall, where do we land? Overall score, given it to based on what you kind of vibe from all the stuff you just said.
I think I landed around a B, right? If I'm remembering correctly. I think I'm around a B.
You're probably B.
A B.
And I'm probably closer to, I'm like B+, probably B+.
Probably B+. Maybe A-
So-
for you, because you were pretty much in the A's on every category.
On
except
every
the last
category
one.
except for the last one, I'd probably adjust my immigration one up, honestly, as I've
so you might
reflected
be
on
A-.
it. So I think I would give the Trump administration's first year a B+.
Which is going to be absolutely shocking to some people, but I think if you're shocked, it's probably because you're liberal in your policies more so than you are like actually disagreeing with what we say.
Yes.
Because you don't like the ends that we're trying to get at, and you don't like Trump in general. Probably you have a little bit of TDS maybe.
I mean, dude, there's some other stuff that I wanted to talk about, but we won't get into it all in the show. But like, there's a lot of progressives that are running in the 2026 midterms, and we're going to talk about. We're going to have an episode on the 2026 midterms that are crazy. I mean, they are crazy, and when I see my friends liking videos from them, it reminds me of how wonderful this administration is to me compared to what it could be.
Yeah.
I think the left is an absolute threat to the country. I don't think that we should okay the aspects of the right that are also the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing.
Sure. To the conservatives out there who think that like my overall score of a B and usually trending towards A- B, I did give one A+ though, is like too harsh on the Trump administration or you think I'm ceding too much ground. I would just say this. Trump is generally trending down in the polls. Like a lot. And so I don't want us to have the same problems that the left has had the last couple of years where there is no introspection, there's no ability to pause, it's just full speed ahead. Everything that we said, everything that we do is right. That is a losing strategy. The left has proved that to us, and the left has ran on a losing strategy now for many, many years. And like I don't want us to fall into that same trap. So, like, while I can give him a B is still a good score, okay? Like, I am in favor of a lot of the ends that we're trying to go for. But I don't want to fall into the trap of saying, like, everything we do is great. There's no change, no need to change strategy, no need to change optics, no need to change messaging. All of that is just going to lose us elections. And I think that the midterms might show that. So, we'll wait to see. But, I don't want to fall into the trap that the left does where we have a PC culture and we can't say anything that we do is wrong.
I think that's brilliant. I completely agree with you. And I think that that's a big reminder for our right-wing friends out there who get frustrated when we're not falling in line. The reason why we are willing to question a little bit is because we want us to be effective. We want to be good at what we're doing. Girl problems time.
Approach the bench and ask your girl problems.
Okay, so now we're going to jump into several girl problems questions. These are the classics. Okay, one of these is repeated because we got one from somebody who asked and wanted to hear our takes on something. So we're like, it's kind of a little bit different, but we should discuss it a little bit.
Yeah.
So Humpog, which I don't know if that's actually the name, says, what is your opinion on dating someone from a different Christian denomination?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I don't really have a problem with it. If I'm in a date, like
Everybody but a Lutheran. Everybody but a Lutheran, because the Lutherans are kind of weird.
It's so
they're
funny.
strange.
I mean, I imagine, right? Like for our grandparents' generation, this was a big question.
Oh, absolutely.
Even amongst Protestants, like you don't want to date a Presbyterian if you're a Lutheran. You don't want to date a Baptist if you're a Lutheran,
But
right?
nowadays, we don't think like that.
I actually remember my aunt on my mom's side, they're strong Lutheran, right? German family, and she started dating a Baptist, and they ended up getting married. And this guy's amazing. He sadly passed away now. It's actually Trevor's dad. But I did hear the last time I was in North Dakota talking with them that like it was a big deal. Like, they did not want their daughter marrying a Baptist.
It used to be a lot
It
bigger.
used to be a big deal. Now I feel like we have so many enemies to the right, namely Catholics. Like, I'll strongly discourage my daughter from marrying a Catholic. Just kidding. But,
I think
in terms of like
that's the only thing I'm
Protestant
hesitant about.
denominations, like, everyone's family.
Yeah, in terms of denominations, the only ones I'm hesitant about are like the Orthodox and the Catholics.
Yeah.
Because they require a lot more. I mean, maybe Anglo-Catholic, I'd be like, she might be a little too traditional for you, son. You might be having kids very early on, son.
And good for you, son.
Yeah, good for you, son.
Yeah.
But I generally speaking, I'm not going to like judge a girl based on her denomination in terms of categorically exclude her.
Right.
But I will judge her as to the fact that if she's in a certain denomination, it tends to have a certain vibe.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're like a traditional, this is why I started making fun of the Lutherans. The Lutherans are kind of weird. They're weird people sometimes.
Yeah.
The Methodists can be weird people. If you're an Episcopal, I'm like, maybe I'm not going to date
even
you.
a Christian?
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to wonder. I'm like,
Yeah.
how far off of orthodoxy are we moving here, people?
Yeah.
Like, there's big questions that you've got to ask about some of the denominations. So generally speaking, I'd be a little bit worried jumping in to some of those relationships.
Yeah. And certainly, like, I'm joking about the Catholic thing, right? I think the most important thing, obviously, is does she have a relationship with Jesus? And does she prioritize that in her life and how she structures her life, right?
Amen.
And I mean, there's a lot of room to wiggle on the exact practice of Christianity or values that we place on politics and stuff like that. But I think that, like, that's the baseline, totally. And so, no, I don't think it's a problem to date different denominations. I will say, here's a bonus question for you, Mason.
Okay.
Would you date a woman who aspires to be a pastor, even if she's Orthodox on everything but that?
That's a really tough one for me. You trying to like get me canceled by all my Christian friends?
No, not at all.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys. If a girl wants to be a pastor, we're probably not going to align very well in terms of like our approaches to theology and to politics. Now, do I have friends who are girls who want to be pastors? Yes, and they're wonderful people. I know several come to mind right now. And
Name them. No,
I don't want to name them out in the podcast, but they're great people and they're nice. And I think some of them are wonderful individuals in terms of counseling their flocks. I'm not as personally comfortable with that as a theological matter. Oh, fudge.
Oh no!
Holy crap! It burnt through. Oh my!
It's okay. You
Gosh.
can patch it, bro. We'll patch it today. Yeah. So the problem with a solo stove, right, is
Oh my goodness!
unfortunately, while Mason's freaking out, I'll just explain to you how a solo stove works, right? This piece of wood is too big for the solo stove. The pieces of wood, whenever it sticks
Holy-
up like that, it defeats the function of the solo stove. You have to keep the wood underneath the brim, or else it will pop like that and it won't burn smokeless. So remember how we were talking about earlier about how you give off the vibe of being a coastal elite liberal?
I have a hole in my snow
This is
pants.
exactly what we're talking about. I know, and I can patch it. We'll
Oh
patch
my
it right
goodness!
after this.
Okay,
It'll be
we'll fix this later.
It'll be
Sorry,
okay.
I was freaked out by that.
Yeah, it'll be okay. So funny enough, back to this question about dating a woman pastor. As you know, or as you probably know, I am not theologically against women pastors. I kind of can buy the arguments for them being, from a biblical spot. However, I don't think I would date someone who aspires to be a woman pastor. I think that would be very difficult for me on like a personal level, not like a theological or orthodox question level. It would just be like, I don't know that our personalities would align.
Yeah.
I think that I do aspire to be more of like the leader in the relationship, not the sole leader for sure. Like I'm not 100% complementarian in that sense, but I think just like if she aspires to be a woman pastor, I don't know that we would really like align in our personalities.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of that question.
Yeah, that's what my main concern is with that too. All right, you want ready to move to the next one?
Yeah.
So we got a voice memo from Shan in
love Shan.
Australia.
Oh, Australian listener.
Yeah, she's an Australian listener.
Yeah.
She said that she dates one guy at a time. Now, here's the thing. Do you think girls should do that? Do you think that they should like only go out with one guy at a time, try to like see what interest is there before they move on to the next guy? Or do you think it's okay for them to have multiple dates scheduled, multiple second, multiple third, multiple fourth dates?
I think it's okay for a girl. I think actually girls should only date one guy at a time, but I think guys should date multiple girls at a time.
Okay. Listen, here's the thing. My mom is a strong believer that women just are going to do this no matter what. So,
multiple guys at a
just
time,
like
or?
be interested in other guys or have guys in the back of their mind that they're like, he might actually be an option.
Yeah.
As much as they're like dating you, literally, and think that because that's just how girls are. And
Aren't guys the same way?
maybe dude, if I'm in love with a girl, I'm not thinking about anybody else.
Totally. Yeah.
And maybe that's the same way for girls too, but maybe it just means that you're not that in love with the guy that you're with if you're doing that.
Yeah.
So I think it's generally okay to, if you're like first, second, third date, to be doing that with multiple people. By third third date, I tend to be more exclusive with people, so I'm probably not going out with other people if I'm going on a third date with a girl.
Yeah. What I've come to realize, as much as I encourage, people to not be exclusive too early, is it just takes a lot of time and effort to try to date multiple people or to try to go on multiple dates. Like, it takes a lot of work and time that we don't really have in this season and in future seasons. So I think it's a wise strategy to maybe just date one person at a time. Just don't drag it on too long. And I was totally kidding. Like, don't drag it on too long, meaning like if it's not going anywhere and you get that sense, like break it off right away. But it's not a problem to become exclusive early on, I don't think. And
yeah.
Just break it off when you're ready.
I would agree. I think it's an admirable thing, Shan, that you do that, though. So
yeah, absolutely.
You do you.
Yeah. And guys have many girls. Girls, one guy.
Okay. From Lauren, very famous voice memoer on this podcast.
I love Lauren's voice.
She
love it.
asked a question a long time ago we haven't gotten to about promise rings.
Yes.
Yes,
I
whether or
remember that
not
one.
you as a boyfriend or girlfriend should have a promise ring saying, we're set apart for each other. This is like ultra Christian stuff, by the way. If you don't know this, it's like a pre-engagement ring, essentially.
Yeah.
You're committed to each other.
So this was weird because I had a different understanding about promise rings than Lauren kind of put forth. And
what was
you
your
just put
understanding?
forth. My understanding on a promise ring was it was a ring that you wore on your wedding finger, regardless of if you were in a relationship or not, regardless of if you were talking to someone or not or engaged. And it was like, I'm saving myself for marriage. That's what I thought a promise ring was. And I'm on board with that.
I've heard of that, but I don't think that's the promise ring that I'm thinking of with this kind of stuff. I don't like wearing it on the wedding ring finger.
It does send a confusing message.
That's
doesn't
very
it?
confusing.
Yeah, it does.
So I don't like that.
Right.
And then on top of that, I'm not a big fan of promise rings as a general idea regardless, though, because it's like at that point, if you're going to get each other rings, just
so fun to spit in the fire.
freaking get married.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? Listen, if you're at the point where you talk to a girl, unless you're like 13, okay? Unless you're 13 and it's like, it doesn't make sense for you to get married.
Oh, it's a purity ring. Is that what I'm thinking of?
You're thinking of purity ring.
Yeah, okay.
My thing is, if you're gonna get to the point of like, let's promise each other to each other, just marry her for the love of goodness, bro.
Yeah, or propose.
Yeah, propose.
Yeah.
Get engaged.
Short engagement.
It's such a pain in the butt.
Are you a fan of long engagements?
Short engagement, short dating,
yeah.
Long marriage.
Long marriage. Amen. That's the goal, at least. Quick dating. Short engagement. Eternal marriage.
It's not eternal, though. We believe you're not married in heaven.
No, I know. It's confusing.
So it's long marriage.
Everlasting.
Everlasting. That's not everlasting either.
Lifelong. Lifelong marriage. There you go.
Lifelong. Okay.
Quick dating.
Short engagement.
Lifelong marriage.
Lifelong marriage. All right.
death
That's
do us
a
part.
new T-shirt that we'll be releasing from Approach.
We need to get some merch out, brother.
Okay, actually, that's a great one for the T-shirt for the merch.
is.
We have one more that we need to cover. It was just a strange kind of session.
Oh dear.
But part of the reason why we're bringing all these up because we got a bunch of feedback questions and we never got to them, so we need to actually get to them at this point. The biggest one that's on my mind right now, and that was on a lot of people's minds, and we've been asked about
Larissa.
to address is how do we plan to raise kids
Oh.
with our significant other, especially in this modern era?
Right.
How do we raise children in this modern era in a way that's not going to...
I don't really think about this much because I think I'll just be at work for 12 hours a day, and I don't think I'll really have a role in raising my family, so I'll default to Mason. Mason?
I was planning to get a nanny with my working wife.
Right.
And we'll choose the nanny, and that's going to be the real question is like what her values are.
Yeah.
Because she's going to imbue our kids with those values.
Absolutely.
So, that's so bad. I'm sorry.
Literally talking about this with a friend.
I actually think that's one of the biggest things that I'm considered, though, is that like I'm going to have to rely on other people to help raise the kids probably because I'm probably going to marry a pretty strong, powerful, forward-looking woman. And that's awesome. I'm all for that. But that means that you have to kind of abide by different sort of restraints. And I think those restraints mean that I'm going to really try my hardest to make sure that I look my kid in the eyes as he's growing up a lot and do a lot of eye-to-eye word exchange where he has a lot of words spoken to him so that his brain develops quickly and that he has a lot of eye contact so that his mind also develops well. These are all things that are really important for a child.
Okay.
What? It's true.
I did not think that your answer to this question would be I'm going to look my child in the eyes a lot.
That's going to be the answer.
Interesting.
And then on top of that, too, when it comes to the practical stuff here, my kids aren't getting phones anytime soon.
Yeah.
They're not going to be doing that stuff. I mean, if they're going to get phones, they're going to be super restricted.
Totally.
We're going to have restrictions on the amount of time they can spend on video games. They're going to be required to be outside. They're going to play a lot of sports. The number of movies and TV shows that they're going to be exposed to are going to be limited based upon where I think that they are emotionally emotionally and kind of mentally matured. At the same time, though, I'm actually going to be pretty progressive with how young I think that they can be when viewing some of this stuff. I'm going to tell my kids about a lot of stuff that's going to be hard for probably them at certain ages to understand, but I think it's important to do that in our day and age because they're going to find out about sex and curse words and all these other things really early.
Yeah. So I'll give a serious answer. The biggest answer that I have to this is I don't really know, and I'm okay saying that right now. I think I don't necessarily know where our culture is going to go or what new risks and problems that our kids are going to face that we don't even anticipate, right? So a lot of it is like, I don't know. And especially in terms of like, am I going to go private school, homeschool, public school? I don't really know. It's going to depend on where I'm living and how the public schools are at that time. A couple of concrete things that I have thought about is, like Mason said, limiting phone use. I don't think I'm going to give my kids...
Don't give your kids phones
I don't think I'm going to give them
age.
Smartphones ever, potentially, until college. Maybe I'll give them...
Work for it yourself.
Possibly. No, I think I'll give them a phone when they're in high school and driving just so they can communicate with friends and me. But, I mean, maybe live by example. Maybe I'll have a dumb phone at that time, too. So,
well, I mean, but...
I think... But wait.
Yeah, sorry.
But that's one of them. Mason already said, like, limiting... like what they're viewing and stuff like that. That's great and important too. I think something that I have thought about is like weekly date nights with my kids or monthly, just where I take them out one-on-one and have like one-on-one time with them as the father. I think that's really important. And then the other thing that I think about a lot is just really wanting to have a very open conversation with my kids about everything. I don't want them to be afraid of talking to me about anything, and I don't want me and my wife to be afraid of exposing them to hard things that are the realities of life. Like, I don't want to raise sheltered kids. And I think the biggest thing, and this is like obviously really hard, and you need to build trust with your kids at an early age to do this. But yeah, I don't want them to be afraid of coming to me about anything.
I agree.
Like, if my son watches porn, I want him to come and talk to me about it and like have an honest conversation. Or if my daughter does, sure. But yeah, like anything that happens, I want my kids to feel like they have a safe space to come and talk to me about it, and we're gonna have like an honest conversation about it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I probably will allow them to get the chip in their brain pretty early on, because at this point we'll probably have holograms and also, especially by the time I have kids. So we'll have so much advanced technology.
Corner here.
I know you're looking right around the corner with all that stuff. So like for me, I don't know. I think I'm gonna have very much the similar kind of protocol, but I want to make sure that my kids can, one, acclimate to the culture and be involved in technology, but also do so and steward it well. I'm expecting them to stumble. Yeah. Like, I'm expecting my kids to stumble because I stumbled, and there's no other way to do it. They're gonna stumble. They're gonna fall.
I wasn't allowed to have a phone until high school.
Kind of same for me. I had like a dumb phone until high school.
Yeah, I think I'd even maybe get them a dumb phone in high school. All right, that's the end of the episode.
That's the last page to burn.
Great.
We had a pretty brisk girl problem section.
Yeah.
Very simple because we didn't get very good questions from the audience. It's really your fault. Send better questions from the audience this time.
Oh, we got a lot of good feedback.
We did get good feedback, but send better questions for girl problems. We're missing good girl problems content, so please send more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, though, I've just actually gotten so relaxed in front of this fire in this beautiful weather as the snow is about to come in with another 5 to 6 inches they're projecting later on tonight. We talked about the Trump administration. We talked about the feedback on the episode. We talked through girl problems. I mean, there's so much more to discuss in this podcast, but I think we're going to have to do it at a later time.
Yeah, totally. Stay tuned for more episodes on midterms, on the Europe question, and much more to come.
And send in feedback, please. We always love to hear from you guys. Yeah. God bless you out there. Nothing we say is ever perfect. I always say that. And you always get upset with me. But I stand by this. I think it's important that we own who we are as we develop, as we move towards something better.
Right. Yeah. I always get upset with it because it feels like a cop-out. He's just saying like, hey, don't take anything I say too seriously.
Yes.
But no, take what we say seriously, but we also are imperfect, and this is a limited forum where we can have discussions.
Amen.
So.
You ready?
Yeah. Let's get out of here.
Have a good one. God
bless you all. We're going to stay by the fire a little bit and snuggle.
And you'll actually see us walk off, but we're coming back. Jesus loves you.